week, I guess, there was an announcement about the unemployment rate. So every month, StatsCan talks about the unemployment rate, and that's great. So our unemployment rate fell. That sounds wonderful, right? It sounds like it's a good thing. But when I did some analysis around that particular piece of information, Stratford Bruce Peninsula, which includes the Bruce, Great Huron and Perth area, actually lost about 1,000 jobs within that time frame, within the month of between August and September. So when we hear the broader announcement that things are going great and the unemployment rate is falling, which would seem to say that people are working, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So what we look at the local board level is we're looking at the participation rate. And what we're finding in all of the years that we've been doing this type of work is that our participation rate is continuing to fall. And what that means is we've been talking with our service providers, and some of them are saying, you know what, it's what we've been discussing here today. The things that are creating people to disengage from the labor market. And that affects everything that we're doing. Can you at the back hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome, so I don't need the mic, great. When people disengage from the workforce, and we start to talk about building the economy and encouraging businesses to come, one of the things they look at is that available skilled workforce. And if we cannot provide to them the evidence of an available skilled workforce, then they will typically decide to go somewhere else to start their business. And recently we did lose one of our businesses from here in Owen Sound. They went to Stratford, and guess what? Not only did they take away 40 jobs from Owen Sound, they are actually hiring more people in the Stratford area. So we are losing that base amount of 40, but we're not allowing that business to grow in the economy as well. So when we look at that whole unemployment rate, we also look at the participation rate and what that means. And what it means is when people disengage out of the labor market, then they end up in a very precarious position. And we want to start talking about why are they disengaging. And a couple of reasons that have been said to us as the local board is transportation. When we have higher, so for instance, let's use Bruce County as an example. On the shoreline, the living expenses are much higher. Rentals and housing is a lot more expensive. When people are working at one retail and they can't afford that, they have to move more inland, which creates the problem of transportation, getting to work for a close to minimum wage or minimum wage job. So those are the things that we are always investigating to see what we can do to help move our economy and our residents into, I wouldn't even say living wage. I mean, like I think Deirdre said it earlier, you know, you don't just want people to pay their bills, you want them to participate in things in the community. And so it's more than just that living wage piece. So, but today, because of time, I'm just going to share with you some information from our skills gap study that we completed back and launched back in March of 2014. So this is really up-to-date information about what's happening in the local economy and what we might expect from our young people. So we had a lot of partners, and to save time, you can read that on the slide a little bit later, but the ministry did give us a lot of money to do that. So when we look at what's happening for our future labor force, and we spoke to our youth to ask them what they felt. We spoke to every grade 12 student in both Bruce and Grey counties, and here's what they're saying. They do not expect to find a job in Bruce and Grey counties. So we have 58% of males in Bruce County and 53% of females planning to move away. And they're not even considering this as a place for future employment or to live. And also in Grey County we have 58%, same males, and 66% of our females saying there is nothing for me to do here. This is not good for our future as we start looking down and figuring out how we're going to continue as a rural community, not just to survive, but to thrive. How is our population going to continue to survive in this community? And the smaller we dwindle, then we need to be concerned about those things that are happening. So our students continue to say that 51% in Bruce expect to go on to university, 38% expect to go on to college. This is right out of high school. So this morning I made a presentation to teachers, and the first thing they said to me is, I don't think so. What they're saying is it's more around 15% of our youth that actually go off to that post-secondary training. And so in Grey County it's 41% and 47% for university and college. Now, It's not always about the fact that they don't want to. It could be that they can't afford to right away. And I'll use myself as an example. My daughter didn't know what she wanted to do, and I refused to pay for an education that you don't know what you want to do in the future. So I asked her to take 18 months, take as long as she needed, but she took 18 months. She worked in the meantime, and then she was able to go off to college after she found the program she wanted. So she's in BC now, studying what she really wants to do. So at 17, 18, maybe your youth aren't quite ready to make that leap yet, or even to make the decision about what they're going to do in the future. So how can we help them become active in the workforce and be able to gain that experience and that knowledge and then decide what they want to do? And in my opinion, it's sharing this type of information so they know what types of decisions they need to make in the future. So the employers, we did speak with employers as part of this survey as well, and employers are saying that they cannot find, it's very difficult for them to find skilled tradespeople and skilled professionals. So we know that those are two areas, and the skilled professionals could be anywhere from an engineer or an accountant or waste management person, so they are looking for more that highly skilled professional, and sometimes they do have to go out of the region to find those positions. Skilled trades, on the other hand, we have about, I would say about 85% of businesses that can be engaged in a skilled trade apprenticeship program are not. So if the employers, that is a requirement of a skilled trade training opportunity, are not engaged, we can't engage our workforce then, or anyone, to have that opportunity to be involved. So we need to also speak with the businesses to become more involved in training that future workforce or current workforce. So here's what our students are saying. 17% of our males are thinking of the apprenticeable trades as a viable option for a career in Bruce County, 23% of the males in Grey. 2 and 3% in Bruce and Grey of females even consider the skilled trades as a viable career option. And I have to submit that there are good paying jobs in the skilled trades. So that's one way. If our employers are saying that we need skilled trades people, and our young women are the ones that seem to be in precarious employment most of the times, then how do we get them connected to where they can make the money that's available in the economy? And it's all about that education and training. But in my opinion, there's a one step further. It's not just about educating yourself. It's about knowing where to educate yourself and where you might be able to have opportunities to be successful. Here in Bruce and Grey, as well as anywhere else you want to work, Manitoba, Toronto, you need to know what the economy needs to become actively engaged. So we are always sharing that information with our youth and anyone else, even with DPI and here in Grey County with Y Employment Services. This is what you need to be giving people as information to make career decisions. Employers, 60% in Bruce and 44% in Grey are saying they are willing to be involved in an apprenticeship or co-op program. We only spoke to 50 employers though. There are thousands of employers in both Bruce and Grey counties. So it's not just about this 50, we need to talk to a lot more about how they can become engaged in training our workforce. So the males in Bruce and Grey counties indicated that they expect to be employed in professional, scientific, and technical services as their #1 employment choice, and females are healthcare and social assistance. So this is great. They're thinking about their future. They already have expectations about how they're going to be involved. Now, the employers are finding it difficult, and I think I put this slide out of order, but you'll get the picture in a minute. Critical thinking, problem solving, these are the skills that employers are needing, and they can't find in their workforce. So critical thinking and problem solving, leadership, some in Grey County, they're asking for some specific skills, AutoCAD, in some training in agriculture. So that's around pesticide, maybe medicine administration and those types of things, more post-secondary training. Construction, education, and healthcare. Education is around French. It's not the broader education system that we don't need more teachers per se. We need more very specialized teachers in the system that the education system is saying. And in Grey County, we're looking at artistic, creative, and some engineering skills that employers are finding very difficult to find here locally. And these are the skills that they're looking to go out for. So they're looking for leadership, they're looking for, if you notice all of these, this is Bruce, this is Grey, this is where they overlap. problem solving, verbal communication, a lot of soft skills. Employers are saying, you know what, send me someone with a good work ethic that have these soft skills. I can give them the technical skills that they need. I can train them for the job that I have for them. Some of these are around showing up for work, showing up when you're supposed to, and even finishing the training program. Some people get hired, and this is what employers are saying to us. People get hired, and then they don't show up for the job. And it's very difficult to plan a shift or plan growth in your employment, in your business, if you can't rely on the workforce. And you know, employers, one employer here in particular, I know in Sound, said they had to add a third weekend shift to cover all the missed time in the week so they can get their products out the door. So these are the things that are happening in the workforce that are infuriating and, you know, kind of frustrating the employers that we do have existing in Bruce and Grey counties. So the employers require a high school diploma or equivalent. And this is that education piece again. We've asked them, why do you think you need, everyone that works for you needs to have at minimum a high school diploma? And they're talking about things like finishing what you started as a kind of a work ethic determinant. And then the second thing also is about that whole idea of continuing to learn. We all know that, you know, this cell phone I got a year ago, it's already out of date. It's a Z10. They've already had the Z30, and now they've got the Passport BlackBerry. That, you know, out already. This is only 12 months old, or you know, maybe 18 months old. So we're talking about how quickly technology is advancing. If people don't continue to learn, then it's very difficult to keep on top of what's happening in the workplace. And that is a problem for employers. So they do, 60% of our employers in both Bruce and Grey say they require a high school diploma. Although employers are starting to hire based on skills, more so than based on education. Although you might have the education, if you don't have the skills that they're looking for, they may not hire you anyway. So where are they finding staff? 70% in Bruce are going outside of the region, 50% in Grey are going outside of the region. But yet we have, remember those statistics earlier? The youth are saying there are no jobs. So they are leaving because they're saying there are no jobs, but employers are saying, but we have to bring people in to take these jobs that we need to fill. So there's definitely a disconnect in the communication that's happening between the workforce or the labor market and the businesses that exist. So what we see is that employers need to become engaged in getting more of that information out. They have to start talking to us about what they need and what they're looking for so we can share that information. And you can see most of their hiring is done through word of mouth. So people are recommending others. Now here's an interesting stat. The students that well, it's not a stat, but it's information, a fact. Students that we surveyed said the least common elective is computer studies. Interesting. Employers are saying they need Excel, they need people to be at least efficient in using Excel and Word and surfing the net for information, not just surfing the net. Surfing the net to get the right results. And so we've got students that are saying, computer studies is an elective, I don't need it. And we've got employers that are saying, we need people to be efficient in use of computers. And we're not talking about just being able to turn it on, find an app, use an app. We're talking about these hard skills. An employer said to me that I will not hire someone if they don't know how to use Excel, because that is what I absolutely need in my business. That's the first thing they look for. So if we're preparing our high school students or anyone to enter the workforce and we're not giving them these hard skills, we're doing them an injustice. Employers are saying we need these skills. So these are the things that we need to be cognizant of when we're talking to people about what types of employment that they might have available to them in the local community. So here's my biggest learning from this survey that we did in March, that we released in March. We have people studying, so our males in Bruce County are studying architecture, engineering and related technologies, business management, public administration, personal protective and transportation services. Those are the top 3 for males, post-secondary fields of study. And healthcare, health-related, business management again, and education for our females. I've already said there aren't many jobs in education, teaching positions for our youth in this area, but we have people going in and having those post-secondary training opportunities. So we have, in Bruce County, we have a 16% youth unemployment rate. So if we have youth that are studying things that are not needed in our economy, it's no wonder we have a higher youth unemployment rate. And it's not, an employer cannot hire you if you don't have what they're looking for. So here's that precarious employment piece. And although we report by numbers, I don't ever talk to anyone about going into retail trade. I hope we don't have any retail businesses in here, but we do have to support our tourism industry. We do have a lot of retail, and that is a fact. Retail is the second highest employment sector for Bruce County. But what that offers is a lot of part-time employment, minimum wage, and often that means dual employment pieces. So when we start talking about the cost of wage, the cost of living, the transportation, the housing, hydro going up by whatever on the 1st of November, we had to start talking about how are people going to survive with that type of economy. And I know that David mentioned about building industry. When we start talking about what types of industry we want to attract into Bruce County, we certainly don't want to promote a lot of retail. It's a good business to support our tourism, but tourism is also very seasonal. Once the tourists leave, then there are much less jobs available for our residents. However, utilities, it's an anomaly in Bruce County. Not everyone works at Bruce County, but because of Bruce Power, but because of the numbers they employ, they always skew our numbers. So utilities is #1 in Bruce, and then we've got healthcare and social assistance. When I talk to people about healthcare and social assistance, the first thing they think are
PSW and nurses.
No, they think about nurses and physicians. Now they're starting to think more about that PSW entry-level positions. And we need to impress upon our residents the numbers of careers that exist within healthcare. And they don't have to be direct patient care. They can be in records, they can be in instrument sterilization. There are so many other things that to be done in healthcare and social assistance. We need to get that information out. And these jobs are good paying jobs. My daughter got a job in healthcare in a long-term care facility right out of high school. Because she had the training and the experience, the knowledge that she needed. She had safe food handling, and she did a culinary program. She got a dietary aide position, and when she left, she was making $18 an hour, right out of high school. So if we can promote these types of jobs to our people that are looking for work, there's a huge need for healthcare and social assistance, particularly in the healthcare field. We need to be promoting these jobs. They are very well-paid jobs. So how can we get that information out and get people trained up to take those positions? In Grey County, a lot of the same, actually the top 3 for both male and female are exactly the same, but we're seeing healthcare and social assistance for Grey County #1, manufacturing #2, employment in Grey County, and then retail trade is #3. So we see that our top 2 are providing really good paying jobs in Grey County. So how can we promote that and help our businesses grow by providing a good solid workforce for them? The other thing I wanted to point out is Grey County's youth unemployment rate is 21%, significantly higher than the province. Our youth are not working in Grey County. No wonder some of our youth that are in grade 12 now, when we did our survey, are saying, I'm not staying here, there's nothing for me to do. But I still think it has something to do with connecting to the labor market and knowing where you should be studying when you leave to do that. So just to wrap up, and this report actually is 160 pages. I would recommend you read every page. It's very intriguing, and I love reading it over and over again. And it's available on our website, planningboard.ca. So if you want to view that, and then we also have the local labor market plan that the 4-County Labor Market Planning Board does on an annual basis. That is going to be released, the newest edition is going to be released at the end of this month, and it has the most up-to-date business and employment numbers that we can find for you. So here's what we think could help in solving the skills gap. Employers need to become more engaged. They need to make sure that we know what careers are available so we can help people in our community make those decisions. We know that educators need to be involved because they're giving some direction about what needs to happen next. So if I'm speaking to young people in a high school and I'm an educator, I need to know what's going on in the economy. So I can say to that young person, well, you know, you might want to consider some other options as well. What can you do when directly out of high school all the way up through university? Because we need to afford our students or youth the ability to make those educated decisions. And then thirdly, community partners like ourselves, like VPI, the Y Employment Services, Economic Development in your community, we want to know what these two groups are doing because these are the two that connect most. And we need to make sure that we're sharing the right information so we can build a very successful and vibrant local workforce.
Thank you, Gemma.